It's not very good.
I would definitely put it in the top 10.
So good.
It's kind of a mess.
A great work of cinema.
Train wreck.
Beyond a slasher, beyond a jump scare.
More thought has gone into the story.
Respecting the source material.
Extremely gory, extremely violent.
The lighting, the sets, the costuming.
Extremely scary.
Well staged, well shot, well acted.
I saw the comedy for what it is.
Relentless.
It was just really, really good.
This is pretty cool.
Another reason why I think it's
so good.
Silent Breed is people!
Hello, hello, hello out there in YouTube and podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that often lift and or separate them from the average genre fare. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, always memorable. If you're new tuning into us, well, where did we come up with this concept? David and I are old friends that have been talking science fiction and horror movies since we came out of our cradles. And that was just a couple of decades ago.
Yeah, just a couple.
And we thought, you know what, how could we organize this? Because I am a writer, I like to plan things and outline them. How could we organize a podcast or YouTube show around talking about horror and science fiction movies? Well, let's talk about them all. Let's go revisit the ones we have seen, and let's go look at some new ones that we haven't seen, and maybe cover 100 years, do a few per decade, per season, and that's why we bounce around a lot. We were like in the 30s last week, and this week we're more modern. So that's what we do. Those of you that are coming back already know this. You like what you've heard, and you're very welcome back. We're glad to have you. I'm here with my co-host and old friend, David Horton. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. We like to start out usually with some icebreaker of what we've been doing other than the topic of the week. And I, of course, have continued into my commute listening to audiobooks, and I finished one called Red Rising. It was recommended on several people's lists of, oh, if you like science fiction, you've got to read this book. And actually turns out to be a, quote, series of books, just like everything seems to be now. It seems, and maybe I just missed this because I was out of literary world for so long, but it seems like very few novels now are one-off novels. Everything has like, we're going to have, this is the first in the Imperium series, or this is the first in the whatever series. I thought this was a one-off. I got like halfway through it and then realized that no, this can't be. And they're building up, and turns out there are 7 novels.
Oh, there you go.
And written by a guy named Pierce Brown, who is a highly reviewed and regarded science fiction writer now. It basically, Red Rising hints at the place that it takes place on Mars. And
see, I had no idea. As soon as you said Red Rising, I was like, that's Tom Clancy, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Red Storm Rising, I think, is Clancy.
Oh, okay. Or Raise the Titanic, or
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sorry.
But no, this is set on Mars, distant future, dystopian science fiction, and it is so derivative. I really struggled finishing the novel, and I have no desire whatsoever to read the next 6 or whatever.
Can I guess?
I know it's on a lot of people's lists and they really like it and everything. And if I had never read The Hunger Games or 1984 or Brave New World or anything having to do with Hogwarts or Harry Potter, then I might like this. But it is so derivative of other, I guess, epic stories of the hero's journey, but he lives in a caste system. He realizes that he has special talents that aren't in his caste, that he's mentored on by someone, and he has to go into combat physical and mental challenges in order to elevate beyond his caste. And there are houses that are wealthy, families that control everything, trying to be sort of Game of Thrones as well. And
or Dune.
Dune, same way. more latter books of Dune, like Messiah and Children, than the actual first one. But
I thought
yes,
you were going to say it was derivative of Wool and the Silo series, but
no, because
okay.
yes, those are dystopian, and yes, I think they have
They're
caste
unique.
systems.
They're unique. They don't really rip off other things, I don't think.
Right. And they're also
Yeah.
usually geographical. You're in the lower caste because you literally are at the bottom of the silo
Yeah.
and you're an engineer. And the ones up top are where the terrariums are and the sunlight and all that kind of stuff. So,
Oh my
yeah.
God, it's
Um,
Snowpiercer.
oh, God. No, Snowpiercer sucks because I can believe people could live for 2 centuries in a silo. I could not believe they could live for even a century on a train that never stopped.
And that's why
Just
folks tune back in because I know how to poke the bear.
Man, snow sucker. Anyway, so that's what I did. I read another novel and it wasn't very good, so I've got to have a palate cleanser, and I've just started a new one that I think will be good. So that'll be great. I might mention it next week if I finish it. So we'll see from
Awesome.
there.
Well,
What about you? Anything fun?
yes, actually, I've been trying to catch up on some stuff that came out in 2025 as far
Okay.
as my genre week, because I'm always behind. I don't go to the theaters that often. I wait till things hit. Sometimes I have to rent them. Sometimes they land on things I can stream them on. And
Of
I
course.
finally got around to watching Zach Kreger's Weapons.
Oh, okay. I'm very curious.
You should be. I'm very tempted to short run this one to next season. I was incredibly impressed with this movie. It is a horror movie, whatever,
Oh yeah.
because when you see the poster and you see the commercials for it, it's hard to tell what this movie's about. And that's very well, there's a good reason for that. But I was worried about all the hype it's generated. I did not need to be. It lives up to everything I wanted it to do. It's one of the most original movies I have seen in a very long time. When
Really?
I heard the opening music, which was Beware of Darkness by George Harrison, I nearly fell out of my seat because I love that song. And I thought it was the
Okay.
Concrete Blonde version, but it wasn't. It was the George Harrison version.
Okay.
Um, I mentioned it's written and directed by Zach Kreger. He is most known for a little indie that got a lot of publicity a few years back called Barbarian.
See, and you saw that, and I've never seen that one either.
Yeah, it's great, but there's one huge gap in logic that still throws me for a loop with that one. I like
Okay.
it, but there's one thing that takes me out of it. This, I don't have that with at all. He's one of those that we mentioned in the past that also acts, directs, writes, and produces. He actually did some of the music for this movie as well. So he's multi-talented and he negotiated. I was just reading some behind the scenes stuff before we started. A sweet deal for this. Like he took an $8 million cut for a 50 point after money down the road. And that was a smart move
Yeah.
with this movie for sure, because this movie's going to be around for a while. But he's all over the board, as I say. He's got his toe in everything. He needs to keep writing and directing. That is what he needs to keep doing because this movie
Okay.
is good. I would say he's cemented a new place in modern horror, very similar to Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, Mike Flanagan, and Ty West. He is that
Wow.
good. The cast is excellent. It went through a lot of changes with cast because this movie got held up in the writer's strike. It originally had the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal, in it. And he
Mhm.
ended up having to drop out because he's got so much on his plate. And they put Josh Brolin in there instead. And Josh is fantastic in it. But it also has Julia Garner, my favorite young actress from the series Ozark, as well as other things. It also has Amy Madigan in it, who has already won a Critics' Choice Award for this role, as well as a Boston Society of Film Critics Award. It also has Benedict Wong and Alexander Enrique, who I believe played Han Solo in that Solo movie. I don't know much
I
about
don't
him.
know, but maybe. Yep.
He's great in this. That's why I was curious. So I looked him up, and the only thing I could find about him was that he played Han Solo. Everyone is excellent in it, and we need more original horror movies like this. The synopsis is when all but one child from the same classroom mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning what or who was behind the disappearance. And that's all I'm going to give you because that's all you need going into it. The movie gets 93% on Rotten Tomatoes with 393 reviews. I would take it up to 100.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's
I do
what I did.
know in my TikToks at the beginning of the year, everybody was saying it was in their top 5 of last year.
Yeah.
So it kept coming up. I kept seeing weapons all over the place. I was like, okay, I guess this is
No shade. Sinners is a great movie, but this movie's better.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah. So that's what I did in my genre week. I'll leave you with the
The segue out of that. Weapons. What if our mind becomes a weapon? Ooh, look at that. How he did
Wow.
that. So clever.
So
Yeah.
shrewd.
So we are in science fiction world this week, and we are covering a film called Minor Premise, which was directed by Frederick Schultz. It was written by Schultz and Justin Moretto and Thomas Torrey. Came out in 2020. A brief synopsis is you basically have a neuroscientist who has been living in the shadow of his father, who has just passed away. But his father was such a great scientist, they actually named a science building at the university after him. That's how huge a legacy he is. And the son, who is our protagonist of it, has started to carry on some of his father's principles and a device that will actually allow us to examine more of the brain. He has an attempt about 6 months earlier of trying to experiment on himself, use the machine, and actually wipe his memory of certain things so that he won't have shame and regret and doubt about them. And that's just caused him to have a bunch of blackouts at times. But it was successful, but not as successful as he wanted it to be. This movie, however, takes up when he has now upgraded his machine. And unfortunately, the test results in him splitting himself, his mental state, into 10 separate personalities, all of which are on a time basis. So they each occupy his reality for 6 minutes. So every 6 minutes, he changes personalities. And the movie, and then every hour it resets. And so this movie examines how he, with the help of his ex-girlfriend, tries to fight to integrate himself.
Reintegrate himself.
Reintegrate. Yeah, well said. Yeah. So first off, had you seen this movie before?
No, I've never seen this movie, and I had never heard of this movie. I like
Okay.
that poster, though.
Yeah, there's another poster that's not as good. It's very disjointed and weird and strange. I like this one because it looks like his face is melting, and you're seeing other other facets of it.
Mhm.
So, well, what did you think?
I don't know really how I feel about this movie. I enjoyed it. I feel like I need a second viewing of it. However, I'm not sure I want a second viewing of it. If I had to, well, let's just put it this way. It's not as bad as Pi, but it's a very similar movie to Pi, which we covered on a double feature a few episodes back. It's
One of the biggest
about
keys from
a
that.
scientist who is obsessed with something. He is obsessed with multiple parts of his personality, whereas in Pi, the guy's obsessed with math. And so I would watch this again before I would watch Pi, though. So
Okay.
that's where I
would
lie
agree with
it.
that.
I think the performances are good, and it's got some really unique people in it that we'll talk about when we get to cast, I'm sure. It's a good idea for a movie. I'm not sure it would win over a lot of people because it is
Okay.
a tour de force between basically one person and himself and occasionally his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. It is an independent film. It strikes you as an independent film.
Hmm.
However, it is elevated by extremely good cinematography and I think very good acting throughout
Hmm.
almost all of it. But yeah, I agree with you. I had not seen it before either. This was my first watch. I had seen
Oh,
it on a few lists again coming up of people saying top science fiction movies of the past 10 years. What would it be? This came about just post COVID, so it was 2020, or right midst of COVID. And a production thing I found out, just to tag it a little bit, is it's almost got a key reference to Evil Dead in that to get funding for it, they did a short. They did like a 20-minute short version of this with the same lead. And he actually auditioned for the short. And that's how they got funding to do the full length feature. So I thought that was a cool thing. But I agree with you. I think pi is a huge key for this in that it's a scientist whose obsession is distorting his reality.
I'm curious as to why this movie has fallen through the rails because I was worried this was going to be an extremely short episode and that you and I are really going to have to talk a good bit about this movie because there is nothing out there about this movie.
Correct.
I
And a
mean,
lot of the
nothing.
people who worked on this movie haven't really done anything since. They've done a
Okay.
couple of things, but like Justin Moretto, who was one of the co-authors of it, the reason he's a co-author is because he's got a doctorate in neuroscience. So
Okay.
he is a neuroscientist and was the one they used as a consultant on the film
Mm.
too, to provide a lot of the scientific reality, I guess.
To Fred
Um,
Schultz.
yeah, Fred Schultz is the big writer director, and it's really his. Now he's done a few podcasts where he's talked up the movie, and Satya, who is the lead, sometimes appears with him. I watched a couple of those just to hear how they put it together, what it was like, everything else. I would love to see this turned into a play. I think it would be a really cool single set play that you could do some really cool tour de force stuff with. I
Mm.
agree with you about a second viewing because I went back and watched it a second time just because
Okay.
of that to see, do they give you hints? And I guess it's an anti-key for me. I don't think he does as well in this as like Sixth Sense was with its layering. When you go back and watch Sixth Sense the second time, you're suddenly going, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. I think this could have benefited with a lot more of, oh, which personality is this right now? Oh, who am I
Hmm.
really talking to right now? But we don't get that because we're so afraid of number eight that we avoid it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
And why? And it would have been interesting for him to set stuff up for stuff that he knows that's coming and that we would recognize before
Right.
the character would. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if it had been like that 2/3 the way through section, if we had, because one of my scenes, which is segue, we usually talk about what scenes stuck out, good or bad to us.
Right.
One of the scenes I really like is when he sits down and he's obviously default, he's himself, and he sees the video, sees the file on his computer that says, watch me. And he opens it and it's the intellect side of him going, so let me tell you what's going on.
Hmm.
Basically, and you just go, holy God, it would have been interesting if we had had another scene like that a few scenes later. He had gotten some message, da 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 da, but it wasn't until near the end that we realized that was eight impersonating intellect, who was
Right.
six, I think.
There's
Could
a
have
million
layered it.
different directions it could have gone off in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think it worked for me. I did enjoy it all the way through. I liked even the last act and the climax and the little twist at the end. Uber telegraphed. We kind of knew that's what it was going to be.
Yeah. As far as originality, it's going to score points there because I've never really seen another movie like this. It does remind me of Pi just because it's a single-handed obsession.
Yeah.
But so is Frankenstein. So here I am just throwing keys out already. But
Ding ding. Yep.
yeah, as far as scenes, I liked when the girlfriend discovers the body in the closet. That was
Oh yeah,
great.
of course you would.
Because you're like, we were wondering what happened to him, and then she finds him. But of
And
course,
she
he's not
finds him by
dead.
calling him and hearing his phone
The
beep.
phone ring, yeah.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
their, not their boss, really. What would you call him? Their
Well, he's a
sponsor?
partner of the scientist,
Right,
but he's almost like he's the corporate university side of it. This is
right,
the smart scientist over here. I'm your front man who's going to sell you and
right.
be in front of the grant committee and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he doesn't
Uh,
show up for a meeting that's very important, and his boss, so to speak, shows up at his house, and you're like, uh-oh, what's gonna happen?
yeah.
And next thing
Now
he's
that
in a
does
closet. He's not dead, but he's unconscious in a closet.
that does raise a plot hole problem for me, or a logic problem for me, I guess, because the whole movie basically takes place in only like 2 days.
Right.
It feels a lot longer the way he shoots it and the way he shows the transitions. It feels like it's like weeks, but literally it's only a couple of days because he's doing these changes every hour.
Hmm.
So there's some time distortion feel in it as you watch it. But to me, it's like, okay, why do they need to keep giving him injections? Can't you just give this guy an injection sedative and he's out for like the rest of the day? I don't have to keep timing it and going up there and re-injecting him. And they
Yeah.
never really said, I think there was one scene I watched, like I said, I watched it a second time, and that was one of my questions, and I still didn't get the answer. Because there is one scene where he's going, make it a small dose, blah, 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 blah. But I'm going, why? Just knock him out for a day or two. Come on. Or whatever. So I guess if you
Other
didn't do
scenes?
that, you wouldn't have the suspense of her finding of him being upstairs the whole time. So yeah.
Yeah. As far as other scenes, it would behoove me not to mention the fact that he gets into his machine, which looks like Judy Jetson's hairdress. I can't say it.
Oh
Judy
my God.
Jetson's hair dryer from the Jetsons.
I hadn't thought of that. Now I can't see anything but that. Thank you so much. I can see Rosie working on it. Yeah.
Actually,
Okay,
it
good.
might be Jane Jetson's. I'm not sure which one had it, Judy or Jane or both,
Yeah.
but I'm going to put that as a key. The Jetsons.
Of course. One of
Eh, Anything else?
Yeah, you were saying about your scene.
That I was just saying that would be a scene, him getting into his contraption.
Two scenes the same but dissimilar to me are just some cinematic choices that he takes that I really liked. One was when he's first starting the breakdown and realizes that when he gets the book and all that, but he's in the kitchen and he's obviously missed his meeting and very upset. He takes the drink and throws it against the wall and there's no sound. There's intentionally no sound there and it feels very odd and jarring.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting. Later on, there's a scene during a montage of all the personalities. So you see unconscious, you see euphoria, you see anger, trash the lab and everything else.
Hmm.
But there's a long scene of just him sitting on the stairs smoking, right? Except he doesn't smoke. He's just sitting there, but the shadow beside him smokes. And you see him smoke. And I rewound that twice just to look at it. Rewound. Ha ha. It's a file. I went back twice just to say, just to look at that. And it is. It's intentional. The shadow smokes, but he doesn't smoke. And I just thought that was a very unique choice. Is that meant to make us go, ooh, weird?
But his
Like all these,
mentor, or not mentor, but his boss, whatever, like I said, I don't know what you would call him,
yeah,
offers him a cigarette earlier and he says no,
yeah,
as if he has quit.
correct.
So I'm assuming that one of his personalities is the personality that would just say, fuck the quitting smoking.
We know 8 smokes. He even says later on when he's
Okay.
talking to his girlfriend, he says, and obviously he's picked up my smoking habit.
Okay.
Because that's the tell, is if he starts, and that's why the big flip is at the very end when she sees him standing all the way across campus in front of the building, and she looks at him, and all of a sudden he turns around, he's got a cigarette, and he
Right.
looks at her. And you realize that he didn't reintegrate. That's 8. That's his
Mm-hmm.
sociopathic side. Has 1. And it's like, oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, the end.
Yeah.
Sequel.
Spoiler. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't really have any other scenes that I can think of
Okay.
off the top of my head.
The only thing I've got production wise was, like I said, they did do a short first to like a proof of concept, and they used that then to sell it and get the money to do the full length, keeping the same male cast because basically the short was just him. So the expanded version, of course, added the boss, our partner, and the girlfriend, and all of that. And the Notebook, Satya said he was actually scared at certain times when they were doing scenes with the Notebook because the Notebook was really practical and it was filled with stuff. And Schultz says, yeah, some of it was actually Mateo's real neuroscience and formulaic and science and all this. And other parts were just like stream of consciousness from either me or the grip or the camera guy or whatever. We just take a couple of pages and just write whatever.
Right.
And Satya said he would read through it going, what the hell is going on?
Right.
So,
Well,
I
that's
thought that
another
was cool.
scene. Actually, you just reminded me of a scene, is that he is confounded by this theorem or whatever formula
Mm-hmm.
that he has not perfected. And he gets a book in the mail that has the correct formula in it. And it's from his deceased father, right? Isn't that book from his
Yes.
deceased father? Yeah, because he's working on his father's work. And
Yeah.
he doesn't his mother send it to him? I can't remember who sent it to him.
I think he sent it to himself,
Okay.
is the impression I get. He
But he
sent
does
it.
talk to his mother at some point, doesn't he?
He does. He
Yeah.
talks to her a couple of times on the phone. She talks about the father and how are you doing and how are you handling it and all that.
Yeah.
Because evidently he and his father were both close and estranged at the same time. Similar dynamic to most sons and fathers.
So that stuck out to me probably because of the familial relation, because it gives you a dynamic outside of the main dynamic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Agreed.
it's also a key, it's also a MacGuffin or whatever you want to call that, key, not a key, but a connection to the father.
Oh, yeah.
In the artifact of the book being passed down.
And definitely a plot device for the plot itself to push it along.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Cast?
Cast?
I'm telling you, I was really frustrated when I started doing my research for this movie because IMDb had absolutely nothing on it, really, at all, other than the cast.
Right.
And you go to Wiki, there is no Wiki page on this. There is, if you Google the movie itself, you will come across reviews, but that's about it. You don't get any in-depth analysis or behind the scenes or anything about this movie. So I was like, I enjoyed it and I can talk about it for a while, but I started thinking this is blasting away our format a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as cast, you mentioned, how do you pronounce it? Sathya? Sathya?
I think it's Satya.
Sathya. Sridharan is the lead, if I am pronouncing that right. Forgive me for butchering it. He plays Ethan Kochar, or Kocher,
Coach. Yep.
and he's the lead. He's the one that's giving you this one-man performance of however many different personalities. The only thing I have is that he was in that movie The Whale with Brendan Fraser. He played a pizza man in it.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else on this guy. Don't know anything else on this guy. However, the girl that plays his girlfriend and the guy that plays his mentor or whatever, the head up at the department that's funding him, for lack of better words, there's some significant background to them as far as their careers. They're related, for one thing. Peyton Ashbrook plays Allie, the girlfriend, Allie Fisher. She
Mm-hmm.
has a pretty good career. She was on the show Shameless. She was on the show House of Cards. She's got fairly a good bit of credits on IMDb.
Yeah.
And she is married to the guy that plays Ethan, Sathya. So they are a real life couple.
Mm. Okay.
There's a lot
I
of,
did
there's a
not
lot
know
of,
that. That's interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of, I don't want to say incestuous because if I do, I mean it in an allegorical sense. There's a lot of relations in this movie behind the scenes. She's married to Sathya. She is the daughter of Daphne Ashbrook and Lorenzo Lamas.
Mm.
Lorenzo was a very, well, not a very famous, but a famous actor. And his father, Fernando Lamas, was an even more famous actor.
Yep.
So she is the third generation in an acting family.
Cool.
She is also the niece of Dana Ashbrook, who plays I keep calling him the mentor, and he's not really a mentor. Whoa.
Like I
What
said,
is he?
he's his partner, but not as a scientist. Mostly, he's the grant administrator. Put it that
All
way.
right, he is the grant administrator. There you go.
Yeah.
And his name is Dana Ashbrook. He is Peyton
Oh yeah.
Ashbrook's uncle,
Mhm.
and we know him best because he was Bobby Briggs on Twin Peaks.
Darn right he was. Yeah.
And I hated that character. That was probably my least favorite character on that show.
But he was great at it because
He
he was so good at making you hate that character.
he was. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I also have a note that he was in Return of the Living Dead 2, which I don't remember at all. So even if he was
Oh,
in it and I knew it, I don't remember it.
either.
But it was fun to see him again. I don't know what he's doing. I don't think he's doing a lot. If he is, I haven't seen it.
According to IMDb, no, not been doing a lot.
Okay.
A
But
lot of
somehow
one-offs on
got
telefilm.
roped into this by his niece, maybe? I don't know. I'm assuming she was attached before he was because of her husband being the lead. That would be my assumption. And that's all we have here, folks, because there's nothing on this fucking movie out there.
Possibly, yeah, I could see that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
She might say, "Oh,
we don't know
I've got
when
an uncle
their
that's out of work. He'd be great at this. Bring him in
we
here."
don't know when their marriage was though. What if the uncle was involved first and then she fell in love with her co-star guy? I don't know.
I didn't try to look it up because, like I said, I couldn't find anything on this. I just found it
Yeah.
fascinating that there were two Ashbrooks in it, and one was on Twin Peaks, and one was married to the lead. I was like,
Well,
that's
and one
interesting.
of the reasons why I love you doing casting is I didn't even realize that, and I watched this movie twice, and I did not realize that they both had the same last name.
The same
So
last name. Yeah, I was like,
yeah,
okay, maybe they're. I thought, well, Bobby Briggs is too old to be her husband. Maybe here's her dad. Then I find out her
yeah,
dad is Lorenzo Lamas, and I'm like,
yeah.
whoa, this is crazy. And
Where
then
did this movie come from? Yeah,
so apparently, maybe Dana Ashbrook is distantly related to the Lamases as well. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know.
It depends on what side of the family they fall on. But that's
Yeah.
all I have on that. Another character that you really don't see that much in it is Dr. Paul Kochar, which is Ethan's father. And he is played by Nicholas Contomanolis. Very Greek. As soon as I read
Very
it, I was
Greek.
like, that's a Greek name. He was in Girls and he was in Blue Bloods. So he's done series work as well. So he's been around.
Okay.
The mother, Maggie, was played by Purva Betty. She was in the movie Sully as well as the series Gossip Girl. She is
Okay.
Indian. The reason I'm
Hmm.
saying all this is I like it when I see diverse cast, and there's a lot of diverse casting in this. One's Greek, one's Indian, and
Very
then
much.
we have Dean Myers, who was played by Melanie Nichols King. She is Canadian. And then another familiar face was Dr. Lang. His name is E.J. Carroll. Did you recognize him?
Yeah, he was from, shoot, I'm trying to find it in my notes because I don't remember right off.
Well, he's like a character actor. You recognize his face, but you don't know anything he's been in. To me,
Yeah,
anyway.
I guess it was one of those,
Yeah,
I
he was
guess.
in The Wrestler, that movie with Mickey Rourke, and he was also in Boardwalk Empire, the HBO series.
Oh,
So
he's one of the smuggler assassin guys in Blacklist. I think he's in the first season or whatever of
he
Blacklist.
definitely looks like a bad
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
This picture I'm looking at from IMDb, he looks like he's in the mafia or something.
Okay, yeah.
So that is pretty much all I have on cast. Just the tidbit that there's a little bit of incestuous stuff going on. As far as awards, it was nominated for Best Motion Picture at the Sitges Catalonian International Film Awards. We've mentioned that before. I think it's a Spanish festival that does genre work, and we see a lot of things sometimes get nominated there. It won a Best Indie Sci-Fi Feature at the Film Threat Awards, but it is not on the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die list, which does not surprise me at all.
No, I don't think most people even know it exists.
Well, I didn't.
So,
Yeah.
right. So interesting. I will say that looking at IMDb, Satya has a lot of credits, but a lot of post this movie, but a lot of them look like maybe he's done a lot of Indian work,
Okay.
a lot of Indian
Well,
cinema and
Bollywood is a
television.
big thing, so he could
So yeah,
be a Bollywood actor.
could be. Yeah.
Okay. And what about this Fred Schultz guy?
Schultz has not done anything else. He's done one other project, but he has gotten into producing. I see him with like 8 or 9 producer credits.
Okay, but
So
he's not
maybe
like
he got
Justin. He's not a scientist.
no. He
Okay.
came from an NYU film background. So
So is this a New York indie movie?
yes,
I feel it feels like it. It feels
yeah.
like it. Hmm.
I had some things from my
Okay.
watch notes. So, and some good and some bad. I do have a trope. This just plays off, like you mentioned, the one of those time perception twisted reality films where somebody mails something back to themselves with a cryptic message. It's ironic. I just listened to a short story last week of a time travel thing where they kept sending each other notes back in time. So they would get the little device and it would have a note inside it telling them what to do next. And they kept
Okay.
trying to reset the timeline based on that. So that trope of sending yourself a message, I had to look it up because his computer, when he would institute some new data or he was doing his coding and entering a new program, kept saying collimation. And I had never seen that word before.
I was wondering what that was too.
And I looked it up, and it is an actual word. It wasn't made up, but it actually means the alignment of optical elements all on a fixed point. So if they're out of alignment, it doesn't work. So collimation is when all of the optical elements align in a central focus point, which makes sense. So it works since he's trying to align all of these 10 disparate personalities that he has.
It does. I should have looked that up, but I see what you're saying now. Okay.
I thought the division of the personalities was pretty interesting, although a couple of them seem to be overlapped. Again, maybe a rewrite or a challenge to what are some other personality facets you could do.
Or
Like
even
he's
give
got,
them a physical tick or something
yes, yeah.
so that you
Because you've
would
got
recognize it as
default,
the viewer.
you've got default, which is basically him. You've got intellect, which is him. You've got unconscious, which is him. And you got number 8, and we don't know what that is yet. And then we find out near the last act that that's really essentially the sociopath. That's the manipulative, deceitful, the dark side personality. But then the others are like anxiety, anger, libido, euphoria.
Euphoria.
I might have challenged them to maybe, are there a couple of those that we could distinguish in some other way other than default or whatever? Instead of anxiety, is there one that's totally fear and just stays in the corner the whole time? I also had the problem of, okay, so every 6 minutes, this is happening. So at the, let's see, 6, 12, 18, 20, the 30-minute mark, you fall unconscious for 6 minutes. So, but they never really show them prepping or preparing for that. They also leave anger in the lab. I'd be locking him somewhere else, some
Yeah.
closet, tie him up, tie him to a chair, do something, and
Let's
then
show
release
him
him.
trashing the place a
Yeah.
couple of
And later
times.
on,
Yeah.
show him actually kill the pretty little rat that he liked. So, yeah, they seem to have just ignored that, I guess.
From a writing perspective, to have it placed every 6 minutes in an hour is
Uh-huh.
very cohesive. But it seems to me like maybe it would have benefited had it been 15 minutes or like a little longer than 6 minutes, and maybe it not take place every hour. Maybe it takes place
Yeah,
every
maybe there's
two
only six
hours.
personalities and each one's 10 minutes or something. Yeah, I could see.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't really thought about reducing the personalities, but you could do that as well. And I do think from a viewpoint, since it is the same actor, it would be nice if there was a tick of some kind or a character trait that you would recognize better,
Yep,
you
totally agree
know.
with that. And
So,
you could do it as those 10-minute marks. And then also, because what they find out about two-thirds of the way through is they're losing integration. So they're able to push through the next cycle. In other words, intellect, if he really pushes, can go through the primitive set and actually be there for 12 minutes. But then also he starts pushing back and losing himself. So you get
mhm.
that whole, I think he even at one point says, I only think I have about 2 more cycles and then I won't be here to
You
help
could
you.
also have it start off with only six, and then he starts splintering into further
Oh, yeah,
ones
that'd be cool
as
too.
well. And then he starts
Yeah.
realizing I'm getting shorter time periods because all of a sudden other aspects of my personality are bleeding through.
Yeah. I love that.
It would need to be a series probably because we might, yeah, I don't know how long a movie that you could do this in and not annoy people.
To me, it bogged down after we had mapped out all the personalities, and then we suddenly found out that eight was probably some form of deviant or
Sociopath. Yeah.
psychopath or sociopath or something. It bogged down after that. And I was thinking, okay, you could have spent a lot more time with suspense time with, like you said, ticks developing so we know who's who and who's lying to who, and or their time frames are breaking down. And it's not just 6 minutes, because if he pushes through the headache, he can stay there. And we actually almost a Flowers for Algernon thing where we think, oh, he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And then suddenly you realize, oh, by doing that each time, he's actually decreasing the intellect side of him or whatever. I don't know, something. I just, I have that the ending was a little telegraphed, got boring. Why isn't she just sedating him until she can input the information and then put him in the chair? Why is she trying to put him in the chair while he's awake? So there's that. Because we know
Yeah.
it's telegraphed pretty heavily that he's going to end up being personality 8 at the end. So doesn't really, but I did like the fact that even us having this conversation, this film is actually making us think and talk about stuff like that.
Right. But it's
Um,
also making us do what we do to movies we want to be better.
yes,
We
so
start
true.
rewriting them.
Yeah. And like I
Yeah.
said, I do agree with you. I think this was a good movie. I would even recommend it and say, watch it. It's a good watch, but it's not perfect, great 1001 movies you should watch. No.
No,
So.
which means it's never going to have anything on the internet about it, I guess. I don't know.
No, it's never going to have its own wiki page or whatever. Yeah.
Keys?
Keys?
I've already said most of mine. It's definitely a mad scientist movie, so you could go to any mad scientist all the way back to Frankenstein. However, it's probably more along the lines of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally Jekyll and Hyde, totally Frankenstein. I've got Brainstorm because that whole losing reality, what's happening, have to put a big device on my head to suck my memory out.
Judy Jetson hairdryer.
Yeah. One of the
That's
ones that got
funny.
me was The Fly. This whole reintegration, integration. I've been split and I'm trying to get myself back together.
That's
sort of
more The
trope.
Fly 1986, isn't it?
Well, yes, Fly
Yeah.
80, Fly Jeff Goldblum.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You said Evil Dead, actually, because of the financing. I
Hmm.
said Pie
Yep.
because of the obsession. What else?
Also, one we haven't seen, so you probably wouldn't put in your keys, but it's Primer is another one very similar to this. Takes place basically in one set for the whole movie, except it's two guys who are experimenting with a device that changes and alters time frame perception, stuff like that. That's another good one that's very a key for this one. I can't remember. I think Primer was before this though. Pretty sure it came out in the late 90s, early 2000s,
I
I
don't
think.
think I've ever seen it. You've mentioned it before, though.
Yeah. It's been on our list. I've just never selected it for a season.
Oh, well, well, we said the Jetsons.
I've got Donnie Darko just because I'd never
Okay.
seen that movie until we watched it, and it does have that distorted, out of time feel in places to this.
You know what else it reminds me a little bit of?
Yeah.
Memento.
Yep. That was going to be my next one.
Oh,
Definitely.
well, that one just came off the top of my tongue, but or tip of my tongue.
Well, except Memento is intentionally told in reverse,
Right.
but
It's out
it
of
has a
time.
lot of when I wake up from this, I have to communicate to myself angle, which is a key to this too. I have to leave a video file saying this is what you need to do next,
And it
sort of
has the
thing.
whole suspense angle as well. Another
Yes.
one that you could apply to it as far as a guy out of time would be Benjamin Button, except it's not a suspense movie.
Right. It's more of a Forrest Gumpy life story.
Right.
Yeah. Well, but you also could encompass it all with like this has a very Philip K. Dick feel to it. That whole technology creating something that we don't know what reality is anymore.
Well, that's
And what,
Total Recall. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. And that whole paranoia of is this me or is this somebody else? Another part of me that isn't me. Which leads to my big key, which I can't believe you haven't said, which is the enemy within from classic Star Trek,
Oh,
where Kirk is split
yeah,
into good and bad.
right.
So that's much more simplistic, but to me, that's like a huge direct key for this movie.
It
Of
is. I
his,
just did not even think about it. And if he had split and had to hug himself at the end, I would be done with it.
well, and have the whole thing of again rewriting it, but more of a you don't realize you can't just pick one of these personalities. You have to have all of them to
You
be
do.
you.
They make you human. Human.
Yeah.
Woman.
So human.
That's an old in joke. Gambling with human lives, human
Human
lives.
lives. And I've got Artifice Girl only in the fact of, for me, it's a key because this was a movie I'd never heard of before. I watched it and thought it was pretty good. It was really strong, small story, science fiction based, but I had never heard of either the author or the creators of it before I
Get what you're saying, but this movie's nowhere near as good as The Artifice Girl. The Artifice Girl's
agreed.
much,
Oh, no,
much
no,
better.
totally agree with you. And if you guys have not seen or heard our take on Artifice Girl, go back and watch it because it's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, that was an
And
excellent film.
my last key I have is Ken Russell, but mostly
Really?
because of the way he does all of the transitions. It's like that weird biologic bubble twisty. He goes, I'm having a headache, and then we cut to this weird, distorted, intimate microbiology segue shot.
That's funny because I would have never said Ken Russell because I think of bright colors when I think of Ken Russell, and this is like very monochromatic.
Well, but they were bright. They were reds and golds and oranges, but they weren't
Uh,
the wop 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 the Ken Russell.
they weren't like a
Yeah,
royal blue background with a white multi-eyed goat head on it.
right. And hearing some Australian didgeridoo or something, blah.
Yeah, yeah, we need to do another Ken Russell. I
Should
can
do
think
with
of a
the
few. We've never done the Devils, and
no
we
the
haven't
snake one.
done.
We've never
We
done
could
Layer of the White Worm. We didn't do that one, did we?
know if you're looking at horror or gothic. But there's also, if you want to go over into suspense, we could do Crimes of Passion.
Oh, oh God. Is that the one with Tony Perkins?
And Kathleen Turner.
Oh my God. No, let's don't do that one.
One
No.
auto suck.
Yeah.
That's the one with the dildo or the vibrator with the razor blades on
With
it.
razor
Yeah.
blades on it. Yeah, no. We don't want to do that one.
Oh no, we're talking about other movies, David. You know what that means?
That means it's almost that time.
Yeah. All right, I think that's going to wind it up for our topic of the day, which was Minor Premise. This is a small indie film that we both feel is pretty good. We're not sure that it's great or that we would want to see it again. However, David did watch it twice, and I feel like I need to see it again just to clarify some stuff I may have missed. I don't think I missed anything though. Anyway, that's our opinions. If you've seen this movie, we would love to hear from you because no one else out there is talking about it. and we would like to validate the fact that we watched it with someone other than ourselves.
Yes, please.
If you like what you see or hear here, you can always see some other shorter content that we put out on YouTube, or you can go over to our Patreon page where we have lots and lots of stuff, free and subscription-based tiers. If you're looking for some science fiction or horror in television, we've got series over there on the original Star Trek, episode by episode, as well as the original X-Files. I say that because they're supposedly remaking it. And until next time, David, when I believe we will be back. Yeah, we'll be back in Horrorland. I think I promised you a vampire movie.
All right,
So,
we'll try one.
Yeah, we'll do it. And I'll see you then.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the